Alien desperation called out, and humanity answered like thunder. The crimson storms of Nexari 7 had been raging for 47 days straight. But that wasn't what kept Chancellor Vex High awake at night. Standing in the emergency command center of New Karath, the capital city of the Nexari Coalition, he watched the holographic displays showing casualty reports from across their 13 worlds. The numbers were staggering and getting worse every hour. "Chancellor," came the voice of Commander Zektor, his military aide. "We've lost contact with the Outer Rim colonies. The Devourer fleets have completely cut off communications." Vex High's forearms trembled slightly as he reviewed the tactical displays. The Devourers, a machine intelligence that consumed entire worlds for raw materials, had emerged from dark space 6 months ago. They had already stripped 12 star systems bare, leaving nothing but empty void where thriving civilizations once existed. "How many ships do we have left?" Vex High asked, though he already knew the answer would be devastating. 43 operational vessels, sir, down from our original fleet of 800. The Chancellor closed his primary eyes, feeling the weight of his species' extinction pressing down on him. The Nexari had been a proud civilization for over 10,000 years. They had built cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants, created art that could make other species weep with joy, and developed technology that had benefited countless worlds. Now they were dying. "Sir," Communications Officer Rolana called out, her voice breaking. "We're receiving distress calls from Korath 3. The Devourer machines. They've started harvesting the population centers." Vex High moved to the main display, his secondary arms working the controls. The images that appeared made his blood run cold. Massive mechanical structures were descending from orbit, their tendrils reaching down to scoop up entire cities. Millions of Nexari were being processed, converted into base materials for the Devourer fleet. "How long before they reach the core worlds?" he asked quietly. "Based on current patterns, they'll be here within 72 hours, Zektor replied. "Chancellor, we have to consider evacuation protocols." "Evacuate to where?" Vex High snapped, his frustration finally showing. "They've already consumed the Altarian Empire, the Vegan Collective, and the Centauri Federation. There's nowhere left to run." The command center fell silent except for the constant hum of computers calculating their species' demise. Vex High had sent diplomatic requests to every major power in the galaxy. The Cosmic Dominion had refused to help, claiming the Devourers were a natural correction to galactic overpopulation. The Star Assembly had offered thoughts and prayers, but no military assistance. Even their oldest allies, the hegemony of 1,000 suns, had severed all ties rather than risk contamination by association. "Chancellor," Rolana said hesitantly, "there is one species we haven't contacted yet." "Who?" "The humans." A murmur went through the command center. The humans were newcomers to galactic civilization, having only made contact 15 years ago. Most species considered them dangerous primitives from a death world, violent, unpredictable, and barely evolved beyond their tribal warfare phase. "The humans?" Zektor scoffed. "They can barely manage their own star system. What could they possibly do against a force that has consumed half the galaxy?" Vex High was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical display. The Devourer's advance was represented by a spreading red stain across the galactic map. Soon that stain would cover everything. "What do we know about their military capabilities?" he asked. "Very little," Rolana admitted. "They keep their true strength hidden. Most intelligence suggests they have perhaps a few hundred ships, primitive weapons, basic shielding technology." But Vex High sensed there was more. "But there are rumors, sir. Stories from the Outer Rim about human merchant vessels that fought off entire pirate fleets. Reports of human explorers surviving in conditions that would kill most species. And," she hesitated, "continue. There's a story from the Rigel incident. When the Slavers Guild tried to raid a human colony, the entire population fought back. They didn't just resist. They hunted the slavers across 3 star systems until every last one was dead." Vex High considered this. "Send them a distress call, full diplomatic channels." "Sir, with respect," Zektor interrupted, The humans have no obligation to help us. They barely know we exist. Then we'll make sure they know exactly who we are and what we're facing, Vex High replied. Compose an open message. Full transparency. Tell them everything. Captain Zara Blackstone stood on the bridge of the U.S. Thunderhawk, reviewing patrol reports from the Sol system's outer defenses. The ship was humanity's newest dreadnought, though officially it was classified as a deep space research vessel to avoid alarming the other galactic powers. Captain, her communications officer, Lieutenant Kai Reeves, called out, "We're receiving a priority transmission from, well, it's not coming from any human source. Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of an alien being unlike any in the human database. 4 arms, iridescent skin, and eyes that held the weight of absolute desperation. "I am Chancellor Vexus High of the Nexari Coalition," the being began. "We are transmitting this message to all civilizations in the galaxy, but most have already refused to help us. We are dying. Our people are being consumed by a machine intelligence called the Devourers. They have already destroyed dozens of star systems and are moving toward our core worlds." Blackstone leaned forward in her command chair, her ice-blue eyes fixed on the display. "We understand that humanity is a young species with limited resources," Vex High continued. "We do not expect you to risk your own people for strangers. But if you have any compassion, any sense of justice, please help us. We have children on these worlds. Artists, scientists, teachers, billions of innocent beings who will be ground into raw materials if the Devourers reach them." The message ended with coordinates and technical data about the Devourer threat. The bridge fell silent. "Lieutenant Reeves," Blackstone said quietly, "get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha authorization." "Yes, ma'am." Within minutes, Admiral Phoenix Kane appeared on the secure channel from Terra Station. His weathered face showed the kind of weariness that came from making impossible decisions. "Captain, I assume you've seen the Nexari transmission?" "Yes, sir. What are your orders?" "I'm ordering you to observe and report only. Do not engage. Do not reveal our true capabilities. The Galactic Council is already suspicious of our rapid expansion." Blackstone was quiet for a moment. "Sir, with respect, these beings are facing extinction." "I understand that, Captain, but we cannot risk exposing Earth to this Devourer threat. If we reveal our strength now, we might save the Nexari but doom ourselves later." The transmission ended, leaving Blackstone staring at the star charts. Her first officer, Commander Axel Torres, approached. "Captain, we have our orders." "Yes, we do." She turned to face him. "But we also have a conscience. Commander, how long would it take to reach the Nexari core worlds?" "At maximum warp, 18 hours. "But Captain..." "And how long before the Devourers arrive?" "According to their data, 72 hours. Blackstone nodded slowly. "Lieutenant Reeves, send a message to the Nexari Chancellor. Tell him help is coming." "Ma'am, Admiral Kane specifically ordered..." "I know what he ordered, Lieutenant. Send the message." Torres stepped closer. "Captain, you're risking court-martial. You're risking your career, your ship, everything." Blackstone looked at the tactical display showing the Devourer advance. "Commander, my grandmother used to tell me a story about Earth's ancient history. When fascists were taking over the world, some people stood by and watched. They had good reasons. They were protecting their own families, their own countries. They were following orders." She paused, her voice growing harder. "But a few people decided that some things were more important than orders. Some things were worth risking everything for. They called it doing the right thing." Torres was quiet for a moment. "What are your orders, Captain?" "Set course for Nexari space, maximum warp. And if Earth Command demands an explanation..." Blackstone smiled grimly. "Then I'll tell them the truth. Sometimes being human means being willing to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves." The Thunderhawk dropped out of warp at the edge of the Nexari system, and what Captain Blackstone saw made her blood run cold. The outer planets were gone, not destroyed, but simply absent. Where thriving worlds had once orbited, there was nothing but empty space and debris. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Reeves. "They didn't just attack the planets. They consumed them entirely." The tactical display showed the Devourer fleet in all its terrifying glory. Thousands of geometric shapes, each one the size of a city, moving in perfect formation toward the inner system. They were beautiful in their alien perfection and absolutely horrifying in their purpose. "Captain," Communications Officer Reeves reported, "we're being hailed by the Nexari Defense Fleet. Put them through." Chancellor Vex High appeared on the screen, but he looked different now. The desperation in his eyes had been replaced by something else, a flicker of hope. "Human vessel, this is Chancellor Vex High. You came." "Yes, sir, we came." I must ask, how many ships did you bring?" Blackstone hesitated. The truth was that the Thunderhawk was alone. Admiral Kane's orders had been clear: observe only. But looking at the relief in Vex High's eyes, she couldn't bring herself to crush his hope entirely. "Chancellor, we're here to help. What's your current situation?" "The Devourers will reach our core worlds in less than 60 hours. We have 43 ships left, but our weapons barely scratch their hull plating. We estimate they have over 10,000 combat units." Commander Torres pulled up the tactical analysis on his personal display. The numbers were staggering. The Devourer fleet wasn't just larger than anything humanity had ever faced. It was larger than anything that should have been possible. "Captain," Torres whispered, "we need to leave, now. If we warn Earth, maybe they can prepare defenses." "No," Blackstone's voice was firm. "We're not running. Ma'am, with respect, we're one ship against 10,000. This isn't heroic, it's suicide." Blackstone turned to face her bridge crew. These were some of the finest officers in the human fleet, veterans of conflicts most of the galaxy didn't even know had happened. They trusted her judgment, but she could see the doubt in their eyes. "You're right, Commander. The smart thing would be to run. The logical thing would be to warn Earth and hope they can build defenses before the Devourers arrive in our space." She paused, looking at each of her officers in turn. "But if we run now, billions of innocent beings will die. Children will be processed into raw materials. Entire civilizations will be erased from existence. And we'll have to live with the knowledge that we had a chance to help and chose not to." "Captain," Chief Engineer Nix Vega called from her station, "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the Devourer fleet. They're beginning their final approach." Blackstone made her decision. "Lieutenant Reeves, open a channel to all Nexari vessels." "Channel open, ma'am." "This is Captain Zara Blackstone of the UAS Thunderhawk to all Nexari forces. We stand with you. Whatever happens next, you're not facing it alone." The response was immediate. Across the Nexari fleet, communications channels lit up with messages of gratitude, relief, and renewed determination. They were still vastly outnumbered, but they were no longer abandoned. "Captain," Vex High said, his voice thick with emotion. "Why? Why would you risk your ship for people you've never met?" Blackstone was quiet for a moment, thinking of her grandmother's stories. "Because that's what humans do, Chancellor. When someone calls for help, we answer." The battle began 12 hours later. The Devourer fleet emerged from the outer system like a plague of metallic locusts, their formation perfect and terrifying. Each ship was a geometric nightmare of sharp angles and consuming tendrils, designed for one purpose: to strip entire worlds down to their component atoms. The Nexari fleet, what remained of it, formed a defensive line around their core worlds. 43 ships against 10,000. It should have been over in minutes. But the Thunderhawk was there too. "All ships, this is Captain Blackstone. We're going to show these machines what happens when they threaten innocent lives." The Devourer Vanguard approached at sublight speed, their sensors analyzing the pathetic resistance arrayed before them. 44 ships total, using primitive energy weapons and basic shielding technology. The artificial intelligence controlling the fleet calculated a 99.97% probability of total victory within 0.3 hours. They were wrong. The Thunderhawk opened fire first. What the Devourers had assumed were primitive human weapons turned out to be something else entirely. Antimatter torpedoes lanced out at relativistic speeds, each one carrying enough destructive power to crack a moon. The lead Devourer ship, a kilometer-long harvester, simply vanished in a flash of annihilation. "Direct hit," shouted Tactical Officer River Knox. "Target destroyed." The Nexari fleet stared in shock. They had been firing at Devourer ships for months with little effect. The humans had just erased one from existence with a single shot. "All Nexari vessels," Blackstone's voice came over the comm. "Target their command ships. We'll handle the heavy units." What followed was less a battle than a systematic dismantling. The Thunderhawk moved through the Devourer formation like a predator among prey. Its weapons, officially rated as defensive systems in human military documents, tore through advanced alien hull plating like paper. But the real shock came when the Devourers tried to adapt. Their artificial intelligence began analyzing the human weapon signatures, calculating countermeasures, adjusting tactics. This was what had made them so deadly against other species. They learned from every encounter. It didn't help. Every time the Devourers adapted, the Thunderhawk's weapons changed. Antimatter torpedoes became gravity bombs. Energy beams shifted frequency and intensity. Even the ship's movement patterns seemed to anticipate every Devourer tactical adjustment. "Captain," Commander Torres said quietly, "they're trying to learn our attack patterns." "Let them try," Blackstone replied. "Chief Vega, how are our power systems?" "Operating at 30% capacity, ma'am. We haven't even started to push the engines yet." Torres understood. The Thunderhawk wasn't fighting at full strength. It was toying with an enemy that had consumed half the galaxy. The battle turned into a rout. Devourer ships that had seemed invincible began fleeing toward the outer system. Those that remained tried to focus their fire on the human vessel, but the Thunderhawk's shields held against attacks that had previously shattered entire fleets. "Chancellor Vex High," Blackstone said over the comm, "your worlds are safe." In the aftermath, as debris from 10,000 Devourer ships drifted through space, Chancellor Vex High requested permission to come aboard the Thunderhawk. When he materialized in the ship's transporter bay, he was accompanied by his entire senior staff. Captain Blackstone met them personally, still in her battle-worn uniform. The Nexari delegation looked around in amazement at what they had assumed would be a primitive human vessel. Instead, they saw technology that was clearly decades ahead of anything in their own fleet. "Captain Blackstone," Vex High said formally, "on behalf of 13 billion Nexari, I thank you. You saved our entire civilization. You would have done the same for us, Chancellor." "No," Vex High replied honestly. "I'm not sure we would have. When you asked us for help, we had nothing to gain and everything to lose. You came anyway." They were interrupted by the ship's communication system. Admiral Kane's face appeared on the nearest display, and he did not look pleased. "Captain Blackstone, you were ordered to observe only. You directly violated military protocols and engaged an enemy force without authorization." Blackstone stood at attention. "Yes, sir. You risked exposing Earth's true military capabilities to potential enemies." "Yes, sir." "You potentially compromised decades of strategic planning." "Yes, sir." Admiral Kane was quiet for a long moment. "How many enemy vessels were destroyed?" "Approximately 10,000, sir. Total enemy casualties." "And friendly losses?" "None, sir." Kane's expression softened slightly. "Captain, you realize that what you did was completely against regulations?" "Yes, sir. It was reckless, unauthorized, and potentially dangerous to Earth's security." "Yes, sir." Kane smiled. "It was also exactly what a human should do when facing genocide. Consider your actions retroactively authorized." Chancellor Vex High stepped forward. "Admiral Kane, if I may, what Captain Blackstone did today will not be forgotten. The Nexari Coalition owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid." "Chancellor," Kane replied, "let me tell you something about humans. We don't help people because we expect something in return. We help because it's the right thing to do." Vex High was quiet for a moment. "Are all humans like this?" Kane and Blackstone exchanged glances. "Chancellor," Kane said, "you just saw one ship, one captain, one crew. Yes, we have thousands of ships, millions of officers, and every one of them would have done exactly what Captain Blackstone did today." The Nexari delegation stood in stunned silence. "You see," Blackstone added, "when someone calls out in desperation, humanity doesn't just answer. We come like thunder, with everything we have." 3 months later, The story of the Battle of Nexaris 7 had spread throughout the galaxy. Not the official version, that was classified, but the truth nonetheless. The humans had appeared from nowhere, destroyed an unstoppable enemy, and asked for nothing in return. The Galactic Council's reaction was swift and predictable. They demanded explanations, investigations, and assurances that humanity would not use their revealed military strength for conquest. The human response was delivered by Ambassador Dakota Cross during a special session of the Galactic Council. "Honored delegates," she began, "many of you have expressed concern about humanity's military capabilities. You're worried that we might use our strength to dominate or conquer other species." The council chamber was silent. "Let me address those concerns directly. Yes, humanity possesses advanced military technology. Yes, we have the ability to project force across interstellar distances. And yes, we will use that strength again." Murmurs of worry rippled through the assembly. "We will use it every time innocent beings are threatened by those who would destroy them. We will use it whenever genocide is attempted against any species, anywhere in the galaxy. We will use it to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Ambassador Cross paused, looking around the chamber. "But we will never use our strength for conquest. We will never use it to force our will upon others. We will never use it for personal gain or political advantage." She smiled. "You see, delegates, humanity learned something long ago on our dangerous little world. True strength isn't about how much damage you can inflict. It's about how much suffering you can prevent." The chamber erupted in discussion, but Ambassador Cross wasn't finished. "So yes, be concerned about human military power, but not because we might attack you. Be concerned because if someone threatens innocent lives anywhere in the galaxy, they'll have to face us. And when humanity answers a call for help, we don't come quietly. We come like thunder." Back on Nexaris 7, Chancellor Vex High stood in his rebuilt office, looking out at the crystal spires that had been restored to their former glory. Construction crews were working around the clock to repair the damage from the Devourer attacks, but the real healing had already begun. His communication device chimed. A message from Earth. "Chancellor Vex High," came the voice of Admiral Kane. "I wanted to inform you that the human fleet has eliminated the remaining Devourer forces in the Andromeda sector. The threat has been completely neutralized." Vex High wasn't surprised. In the months since the battle, human ships had been appearing wherever the Devourers had been spotted. Each encounter ended the same way: total Devourer defeat. "Admiral," Vex High replied, "how can we ever repay this debt?" "Chancellor, remember what I told you. We don't help because we expect repayment. But if you really want to honor what happened here, then next time you hear someone calling for help, answer them." Vex High smiled. "I understand. We will." "Good. And Chancellor?" "Yes. Welcome to the family. Humanity has a saying: those who stand with us in the darkness will never stand alone in the light." As the transmission ended, Vex High looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling the galaxy, watching for threats, ready to answer when desperate voices called out for help. The galaxy was safer now, not because of treaties or diplomatic agreements, but because somewhere in the vast darkness, humanity was listening. And when humanity heard desperation call out, they answered like thunder. Years later, when young beings across the galaxy heard stories of the Great Devourer War, they always asked the same question: but why did the humans help? What did they gain? The answer was always the same. They gained nothing. They risked everything. They did it because when someone needs help, that's what humans do. But what if the humans hadn't come? Then the Nexari would have died. The Devourers would have consumed everything. The galaxy would have fallen into darkness. So the humans saved everyone? Yes, child. The humans saved everyone. And all they asked for in return? Nothing, except that when we hear someone calling for help, we answer them too. And that was the truth. When alien desperation called out into the void, humanity answered like thunder. Not for glory, not for conquest, not for reward. They answered because it was right. Because that's what humans do.